it was huge for us. We were all in this thing together. It was a we thing, and everybody just believed. It was a beautiful demonstration of resilience. Beautiful demonstration of just not giving up and not giving in.
A beautiful demonstration of resilience. It sounds like a band name. I don't know if it accurately describes what we've seen from the Broncos through 4 games this season. But alas, Denver is in the win column after a 21-point comeback against the Chicago Bears on Sunday afternoon at Soldier Field. The Broncos trailed 28-7 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. They come all the way back, score 24 unanswered points to get their first win, led by a fantastic game from the guy you just heard from, Russell Wilson. We're going to get into all of that here on a fresh episode of the Not Another Bucking podcast. My name is Nick Kosmider, joined by producer Matt Kosmider, to talk about this game. And, look, we could get all the caveats out of the way and should up front, right? This was a game it was one of 2 games between 0-3 teams this weekend, the Vikings and the Panthers being the other one. So this was a game really for the battle of the basement supremacy, right? In terms of which of these teams was leading the race to Caleb Williams, as much as you can say that 4 weeks into the season. And for much of today, it looked like the Broncos were right down that road. The defense that was awful against Miami was just as bad somehow today against the Bears. They got a good stop on the first drive, in part because Chicago made a weird decision to not go for it near midfield when you're 0-3 and your offense is kind of rolling a little bit. You punt the ball. But then after that, the Bears score. They score on 3 straight drives. The only drive they get stopped after that is one that ends the half with a Hail Mary attempt. They score their first drive of the third quarter, and it's 28-7. And Matt, this defense, woof. Like to borrow a line from Home Alone, like Buzz, your defense, woof. Like right back to it, man. Like what was going on in your view?
Well, I mean, Vance Joseph, and Peyton talked about it a little bit after the game, but Vance Joseph clearly came in with the mindset of we're going to make the Bears beat us throwing the ball. They didn't want to see, broken down running lanes and a quarterback running for 11 times for 60 yards against them. So the pass rush was a kind of a cage rush, designed around containment. And they're like, well, we'll see if how the secondary holds up. And we got our answer very quickly in the first half about how that secondary was going to hold up, and it was not a good picture. In the first half of the last 2 games, you wrote about it earlier, they've forced 1 incomplete pass, and it was on a Hail Mary to end the first half today. So not the way that you want to be starting games out as a defense.
Quarterbacks are 32 of 33 in the first half of the last 2 games. That is historical. And the Broncos did do a good job with that, containing the rush lanes for Justin Fields, right? Because if you are going to take that away, then that's what you have to do. You have to be disciplined in not rushing higher than the quarterback and allowing him to just go up the middle. They did that for most of the game until the fourth quarter, which we'll get to in a minute, where Justin Fields had a 20-yard gain that threatened to sort of end Denver's comeback. They eventually obviously get a 4th down stop. We'll get to it. But Matt, I think my takeaway from this is, with all those caveats that we've established being what they are, this was a win the Broncos had to have. And it wasn't pretty. It required, again, a come from behind 21-point deficit, largest comeback for them since 2020. But they got it done. And they got it done because Russell Wilson, who, for all that's gone wrong, we've continued to talk about the improvement we've seen with him, the fit with Sean Payton. And here we are, that the biggest offseason storyline was how Sean Payton and Russell Wilson would gel, and whether those two could collectively help this offense function a lot more efficiently than it did a year ago. They're largely passing that test. It hasn't been perfect, but this offense is far better than the offense a year ago. That's clear now. That's not really up for debate. And Russell Wilson is looking like, again, like a 2020 version of himself, 2019 version of himself. He had his best game as a Bronco today. He completed 75% of his passes, 233 yards. He threw 3 touchdown passes. He overcame 5 false start penalties by his O-line, never kept composure. And I thought, Matt, the thing that was struck me about Russell Wilson today, he played as animated as I've seen him. And I know some of that can be hard to quantify and put it in whatever box you want to put it in. But there was just something from him where and guys talked about it in the locker room after the game, like he sparked something in us. Like you could just see it in the way that he played today.
Yeah, no, he was coming off the field when they're down, when they just scored to make it 24 or 28-14, talk about like, they know we're going to win. And, that's the kind of attitude that you want to be giving to your team. Like they see it, they know that we're coming back right now. And it did feel like there was a really good chance that was coming. I don't think that we were wondering whether the offense was capable of putting up 21, 24 points and a half. That I think wasn't a huge surprise to see the offense go out and play that well. They have surprisingly been fairly consistent this season. The question throughout the entire first half of that game and even into the second half was, is this defense going to stop anybody? Because the offense, we talked about the first couple of weeks that they were missing those explosive plays. And today with Jaleel McLaughlin entering the lineup after Javonte goes down, that was huge difference in the amount of explosive plays they were getting in the run game. And then that's not even talking Marvin Mims after his muffed punt early in the game was quiet for muffed kickoff, for quite a while. It was pretty quiet for quite a while up until that last drive. But those two rookies getting involved and being those explosive threats, causing those big plays is what really I think is getting this offense gelling and getting some momentum.
Yeah, 100%. And I didn't touch on McLaughlin a lot in the story I wrote at The Athletic after the game because I'm going to write something separate on him. But here's a guy that comes in, has not had consistent carries at all in the first 3 weeks of the season. I don't think it's had more than 2 carries in a game at any point. And Javonte Williams goes down with a hip injury in the second quarter. And the Broncos need that spark. Jaleel McLaughlin, 7 carries, 72 yards. He had a 31-yard run in the fourth quarter that helped the Broncos, led the Broncos on their drive that pulled them within a touchdown. He was magnificent. Just his shiftiness in space and his ability when they run these like inside toss plays. It's been a wrinkle that I've seen watching this team. I think we talked about it a little bit, but just sort of that you get everybody moving to the inside, and then with one quick cut and his ability to sort of snake in between the defense, he's just got that like little shimmy. He is fun to watch, man. He really is. And he had the 7 carries for 73 yards. He also was their first touchdown on an 18-yard screen where he got at the line of scrimmage, well executed. And then he just, again, kind of this in-out cut, got past the defender. And Sean Payton said afterwards, like, yeah, he's going to see an expanded role. And especially if it's a hip/groin injury for Javonte Williams, you think, given what other guys dealing with that same injury have dealt with, there could be an absence there of a week or two. We don't want to speculate. We'll find out more this week, but you feel good about putting Jaleel McLaughlin in the game.
Yeah, certainly as far in the running game and in the pass receiving game, he definitely brings a certain spark. Samaje Perine is kind of that more of what you already had from Javonte Williams as far as that hard runner, better in pass protection. That was one thing Peyton kind of mentioned when he was talking about Jaleel McLaughlin after the game is you love getting him involved in the game, but you also don't want to put him in positions where where there's mismatches because he's in the game. Because the one sack that the Broncos gave up today was when McLaughlin tried to pick up a blitzing linebacker, Jack Sanborn, and he completely whiffed on the block. That led to the one time that Wilson went down today, which is a great, if that's the only time that Wilson gets sacked today, you take that. But you prefer to not have to have your little scat back trying to pick up a massive outside linebacker blitzing without any help. So
right.
They have to be smart about when they get him in, but when they get the ball in his hands, it is fun to watch. And then again, we were talking about Marvin Mims had the big catch on the last drive. Also had another big punt return earlier in the game as well. So
yeah, he now has two punt returns, and I wrote about this for kind of my weekend piece. Was what's really been interesting about Marvin Mims is he has obviously made the most out of his return opportunities. He had the 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. His first punt return against the Commanders in week 2, his only punt return until today was for 44 yards. Today was only the second punt he actually got to return, and he takes it back 28 yards to kind of jumpstart the Broncos on a fourth quarter touchdown drive. Really great return, and it helped the tone for, as you mentioned, on Chicago's first punt, or I'm sorry, on their first kickoff after they had scored their opening touchdown. Just kind of gets on top of him, hits him in the head. They ended up, being at the 4-yard line, recovers it, and they weren't able to do anything with that drive. And that it did feel like a kind of a bad swing point in the game for the Broncos, because they're there. They end up having not a great punt from there, and the Bears have a short field, which the last thing you want to have when you're just not clicking defensively is giving teams short fields, and that's what happened there. But again, like, you're gonna make mistakes. He's a rookie. I mean, there's veterans on this team making a lot of mistakes. Like, that's the one thing that's kind of like puzzled me about Marvin Mims is, like, if you're just saying it's this rookie situation, like, he has played very clean football. That this, of course, being the one exception that we can note. Without breaking down the film of, I'm sure there's been some routes missed here and there. But I want to take it back to this defense. Okay, so the Bears score on Justin Fields' fourth touchdown pass to Khalil Herbert, a 2-yard pass. It's 28-7. There's 4 minutes left in this game, and at that point, the Broncos are staring down the barrel of 0-4. And again, I'm basically starting this column of, like, Sean Payton said before training camp that Nathaniel Hackett authored one of the worst coaching jobs in NFL history. And the way I'm thinking is, it's been a bad month for Nathaniel Hackett, right? He lost his BFF and his quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, on the fourth play of the season, right? Like, awful. And he's saddled with Zach Wilson, who was the number 2 pick in the 2021 draft and has shown no signs that he is a functioning NFL quarterback. So they'll probably move on from him. And the net result of it all, last I saw it was 17-2 tonight. I'm sure they're still getting trounced. Not
2012, actually. Well, that's last
okay,
I looked.
So 12 points for a Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson has like 105 QBR to Patrick Mahomes' 75. That's the last I saw, and I assume that continued the entire game, and the Jets won.
Yeah, so we'll leave our listeners to kind of go fact check that on their own. But anyway, so it's not been a good month for Nathaniel Hackett. But he was, as I was kind of writing this, like, he was going to be able to be comforted on his flight to Denver for their Week 5 game next Sunday with this singular thought, which is, hey, Sean Payton, if I authored one of the worst coaching jobs in NFL history, what is 0-4 with mostly the same team, but what you believe to be better additions, a 50-point loss and a loss to the Chicago Bears as part of an 0-4 start? What is that, right? So they avoided that indignity, but Sean Payton, to his credit, said, like, when we could hear the music thumping, that's Sean Payton's thing, right? This club dub, you win, you get to embrace it. And the locker room was full of happy players who have just had to deal with this. That's what the NFL is. You win, you get the spoils, you get to celebrate it, no matter who it's against, no matter what it looks like. It's hard to win. You get to do it, but it can't cloud the fact that, man, if I think some reinforcements will help. It'd be great to have Justin Simmons in a secondary that just seems lost half the time. And a guy like Josie Jewell, just a little more sound right now at inside linebacker. Those things are going to help, but the issues are more foundational to that. But what I was getting to, Matt, is that they made the plays as part of that comeback. Like, the comeback wouldn't have happened if the defense didn't eventually answer the bell. It happens in Delarrin Turner-Yell getting a deflection on third down after the Broncos had cut it to 28-14. So now you have to punt. And then Broncos go down and score. Russell Wilson hits Cortland Sutton for a 13-yard touchdown pass and 3 fist pumps to follow. And then you had the play of the game, as Sean Payton called it. Matt, what did you think of that play? Nick Bonitto, Jonathan Cooper, touchdown.
Well, the play was great by Nick Bonitto, and I think it was interesting, kind of looking at the fact that coming into the week, this was the first week that Nick Bonitto actually took over for Randy Gregory as the starter there. So him coming in, all he did was match his career total for sacks with 2.5 sacks in the game, forced fumble, 2 tackles for loss. He played a really good game. I thought in overall, I thought that the defensive line played fairly well throughout the game. Interestingly, though, it was when they kind of went from that cage rush of containing Fields to now we're going to bring extra pressure, that they actually started to find some success. So they brought 5 on that play. They started bringing 5 the next drive as well. And that was when we started to see Fields uncomfortable throwing the ball. And that's when they actually started to have some success defensively. So like, I think that they realized after that first half that if we put it on our secondary to make the play without anything else going on, up until that last drive with that last interception, that wasn't really working out for them. So they got some pressure. They got that strip sack. They got that. You take a trip back to the end zone with a fumble recovery against, your former college teammate. That's just going to be a pretty awesome experience for sure. So the guys in the locker room were all really happy, or we're all celebrating that play. And I mean but Benito, like I said, he played beautifully. That was a perfect like rush depth for what you want.
Yeah.
Didn't fall for the play fake at all.
And yeah, you said it. He didn't fall for the play fake, and he didn't hesitate. Like, it's one of the, because there's been a lot of there's sort of similar plays earlier in the game where you kind of get out on the edge, you get kind of a free rush, but you're not exactly sure what Justin Fields is going to do. That is sort of the challenge that he presents, because if you bite the rush too hard, he's gonna maybe juke you a little bit inside, whatever the case might be, but Nick Benito committed to that. Once he realized he was unaccounted for, he just darted there. He got on top of Justin Fields quicker than the quarterback realized. And, he essentially kind of drops the ball, just trying to like account for Nick Benito coming, darting into his face. And so then you had Jonathan Cooper just there, picks up the ball. And yeah, and Sean Payton's quote was, usually you score on defense, you're going to win those games. And that happened here. But after that, like, the only problem with that was that the defense had to go back on the field again, because it had been a fairly lengthy drive. Like, the Bears got to midfield. The defense had been on the field quite a bit, and then they go right back out there after kind of the emotion of scoring a touchdown. Now you got to kind of like bring it back down and play solid, sound defense again, and they almost didn't. The Bears go down the field. The running game, man, they gave up 171 yards 1 week after giving up 350 yards. They have got some serious issues to figure out with how they're like playing gap discipline with their run defense. But the Bears, behind some big runs by Khalil Herbert, get down to the 18-yard line. They have a 4th and 1, and again, the game is tied. There's less than 3 minutes left on the clock. They sort of they sort of make you think that they're going to just rush up to the line, try to get the Broncos offside. They don't jump, so Chicago calls a timeout. Alex Singleton said, yeah, we were sure they were trotting the field goal unit on at that point. That's what you thought they were doing. Instead, the Bears come back out, and once their offense is on the field, now they're running a play. And, they hand it off to Herbert inside. Singleton fills the hole, stuffs him for 0 yards. Matt, if they pick up that first down, if they get that 1 yard line, the time is not on Denver's side. We were doing the math in the press box. I think so. What happens there? There was like 2:57 left. The Broncos had one timeout. So you pick up the first down at that point. The Bears have to run one more play before the 2-minute warning. So let's say you let them do that. They hand it off. You stuff the run. Second and long as the 2-minute warning hits. And then second down, you use your timeout right after the 2-minute warning. So maybe there's 1:55 left, whatever the case might be, bringing up a third down. Now, you probably, if I'm the Bears in that situation, you just run again, let the clock go down to about a minute. You kick the field goal to go up 3. You leave the Broncos after the kickoff with like 50 seconds, something like that, and no timeouts. Granted, they would have only had to get in field goal range, but man, you're playing with fire at that point in a major, major way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 4th down stop was fantastic. Before that, though, even the 3rd and 5, Turner Yell came up, flying up from his safety position for one of the best, like the biggest defensive plays of the game. Like, he made that stop right at just flying to the ball. And that was what even set up the 4th and 1 that put us into that situation to begin with. So the defense made no plays in the first half, but just enough plays, exactly the minimum amount of plays in the second half to give the offense a chance. And the offense last year, it was always talking about like, man, is the offense going to do enough to make up for, or to carry, or to pick up where the defense is carrying this heavy load?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this year it's been the opposite. The offense it's not the Miami Dolphins offense. It's not going to score. It's not the Buffalo Bills offense. It's not going to score 45, 50 points a game, but it's going to be consistent. It's going to put up some points, and it's going to give you a chance to win in games if the defense plays respectable. This week, the defense played respectable in the second half, at least.
For at least long enough
to pull it out. So
yeah,
I thought the plays that they made down the stretch were at least enough to give you some hope that there's a chance that this team could beat teams like the Jets, teams like the Vikings that are coming up on the schedule here in the next few weeks. Not maybe as much teams like Kansas City.
Yeah, and I think like they, the thing too, I think that you're like excited about a little bit if you're a fan of this team and you enjoy good offensive football is that there's still leaving a lot on the table. And a lot of it is in the form of self-inflicted mistakes. They had 5 false start penalties today, 2 by Mike McGlinchey, the guy that got the $87 million contract. Like, that is not cool, man. Like, you're not supposed to be doing that.
Especially on 3rd and 1. Like,
like Sean Payton brought that up. When you go 3rd and 1 to 3rd and 6, that is just a backbreaker. And again,
it's like a 45% conversion rate. 45% less likely conversion.
Right. So you had that, and you had a lot. You had more of, again, in the first half, especially of the burned timeouts. Right. So like, I think the Broncos had a chance with Chicago's last drive to kind of create that like, force a punt situation in that drive and give yourself a chance to like go down, maybe get a field goal or something like that. But they had no timeouts with which to do that. So the Bears were able to just kind of throw a Hail Mary and do what they needed to do to run out the clock.
They burned all their timeouts with 4 minutes left in the first half. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's the second. Yeah, so that keeps happening. So again, so whatever that pipeline clog is, they have to get that figured out because it's costing them opportunities to score points. And the other thing the offense is leaving on the table is these. So this is crazy. They've won the toss every week. They've deferred every week, which means they've gotten the ball first to start the third quarter every week. They have not done anything on those 4 drives to start the second half. In week 1, they put together a decent drive, but it stalled at the Raiders 37, so they kicked a 55-yard field goal. It missed. In the 3 games since, those drives to start the third quarter have been 3 and outs for Denver. So I mean, they have just, for whatever reason, and I asked offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi about that this week, and this is before they had another 3 and out. Like, can you put your finger on anything? He said, it's, at this point, this sample size is probably circumstantial because I think we're doing some good things, but if it was to continue, like we'll need to like take a hard look at it. I'm like, I think it's take a hard look time at whatever it is.
At everything.
Yeah. But again, the other encouraging, so that's one of the encouraging things that they've been leaving stuff on the table. The other part is that today, again, we have been talking about this, the splits in the first and second half for Denver's offense have been bad. They've been among the best in the league in the first half. Second half, a completely different story. Today, they score 24 points in the second half of this football game. Granted, 7 of those were from the return, but the offense scored 17 points in the second half. And so, again, they just, Russell Wilson got it going. They had the confidence. They were moving the ball. Jaleel McLaughlin, big runs. Jerry Jeudy had some really nice catches in the second half. Russell Wilson spread the ball around. They just got it going. They had a good mix. They felt like they were in control. Again, the only pass rush in the NFL worse than Denver's this year statistically has been the Bears. So that's another piece of the context that we need there. They're going to face much, even the Jets, as rough as their offense is, they're going to send a lot more pressure Russell Wilson's way on Sunday. But again, just another positive that's maybe a trend that they were able to kind of get past a little bit. They put together a really good second half performance.
They did, and they did it against a team that was playing a lot of too high zone. So 2 deep safeties, meaning that you don't have as many opportunities for that deep ball. And when the offense has had success, and like last week and a couple times before that, it was on the deep balls. What's one of the things Russell Wilson does really well. We know he can throw deep. The question sometimes is whether those intermediate routes, those shorter routes, whether the team's going to be able to capitalize on those. And against the team playing a lot of too high zone, they were able to take the dinks and the dunks and move the ball down the field, 12 yards on the screenplay, 10 yards on a run, and get that kind of consistent movement. And then finally, when they dialed up the play or the pass to Mims on the final drive, or the second to last drive in the fourth quarter, they, that was there. They found it again, or with Judy running a kind of a seam down the middle, and then the crossing pattern by Mims was open, and they hit it, and it looked really good when it finally did. So it's encouraging to see them kind of taking what the defense is giving them and being able to kind of convert on that, even when it wasn't just the big deep balls to make it work.
Yeah, and what was cool about that play, because you're right, that was right after the turnover on downs, Alex Singleton's 4th and 1 stop, the 48-yard pass to Marvin Mims that immediately put them in field goal range. It was the very first play of that drive. Russell Wilson, I looked down while Denver's defense was on that drive, the second to last Bears drive, I guess, and he had all his receivers over sitting next to him, and he's sort of going over the checks, the hand signals, obviously not privy to what the conversation was, but it was pretty clearly they were going over some details of some things they needed to accomplish on this last drive. And so to just go out and hit it, execute it, as Sean Payton said, Russell Wilson put it right in the honey hole, or the turkey hole is what he called it.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful throw. He had got the safety, the second high safety leaning just enough this way, makes the throw. He's been hitting that all year, and that's what you love to see with Russell Wilson. So yeah, I mean, it was an exciting day, I think, again, for this offense. Caveat being the Bears are what they are, but but it was a progression of what we've been seeing. It would be one thing if the Denver's offense hadn't done anything particularly good, and then they have this performance, but it's a continuation of what they've done. Now, can you get some guys healthy on defense? Can you just something to where you can maybe simplify your plan a little bit defensively? That's going to be the key.
Yep.
And I think that's it, Matt. I think we've pretty much covered this game. The Broncos improved to 1-3. They get the first win of the Sean Payton era, later than many hoped, but here it is. They avoided the dreaded 0-4 start, and they will now host the New York Jets on Sunday. Sean Payton alluded to he called it the Jets fiasco, knowing that much of this week will be about the comments that he made in late July about Nathaniel Hackett, who will be bringing that beleaguered Jets offense back to Denver, where he was the coach last year for 15 games until he was fired. So fireworks. We'll get to talk about it all. We'll have a good conversation in the middle of the week about Broncos Jets. But until then, subscribe, tell your friends. We've been loving the feedback on the podcast. You guys are listening, engaging. It's been awesome. So keep it up. Let us know what you think. And until then, thanks for watching and thanks for listening.